everybody. So while I was at work today, there were a flurry of trades in the NHL leading up to the 3 p.m. roster freeze, where trades could no longer happen after 3 p.m. until the Seattle expansion draft has passed. So this was the last chance for teams to make those pre-expansion moves. And then obviously they had to get their protection lists in today as well. We'll know what the protection list looks like officially tomorrow, but teams took full advantage of those last few hours to get deals done. And there were a lot of trades in the NHL today. So what we're going to do here is go through them one by one, and I will give my opinion on each trade that happened here today. Before we begin, I just ask you to please subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you haven't. It helps out the channel so much and is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it here. Just looking at all the moves made today, starting with the Toronto Maple Leafs acquiring Jared McCann from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for Filip Hollander and a 2023 7th-round draft pick. This is a great move for the Toronto Maple Leafs, in my opinion. Jared McCann has proven to be a very valuable middle six player who can play center or wing. And he can play on the second line. He can play on the third line. You can move him around. He's a very versatile player, and he's had some decent seasons with the Penguins over the past couple of years. I really, really like this addition for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And when you look at Toronto, who is likely going to be losing Zach Hyman in free agency, and also maybe trading away Alex Kerfoot, that opens up some roster space there where they needed a middle six guy to come in and fill at least one of those holes. Jared McCann can absolutely do that. So if they lose Hyman in free agency, Jared McCann can play the left wing on the second line or wherever they want him to play. He's a guy that can come in and really help that team in the middle part of their lineup. And I really like this move for Toronto. Obviously for Pittsburgh, they were probably going to lose McCann for nothing. They were not going to be able to protect him in the expansion draft, which means that Seattle, he would definitely be high on the list for Seattle as far as guys I think that they would be looking at. So if you're the Penguins, it's better to get at least a little something. And now Filip Hollander and a 7th-round pick isn't a lot, but it's better to get something for him than lose him for absolutely nothing. And they were not going to be able to protect him. But for Toronto, though, I think this is a huge, huge win for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is a guy that is going to help this team, without a doubt. Now we had a very, very interesting 3-team deal here between the Philadelphia Flyers, the Nashville Predators, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So Philadelphia traded Phil Myers and Nolan Patrick to the Nashville Predators in exchange for defenseman Ryan Ellis, which I think is a huge upgrade to the Philadelphia Flyers back end. And then Nashville immediately turned around and sent Nolan Patrick to Vegas in exchange for Cody Glass. So all in all here, Philadelphia ends up with Ryan Ellis, Vegas ends up with Nolan Patrick, and Nashville ends up with Phil Myers and Cody Glass. That's how these deals all eventually shake out. From a Philadelphia Flyers perspective, I absolutely love this deal. Ryan Ellis is the kind of guy that they needed on their back end. He is a legitimate top pair defenseman. He's played with Roman Josi down in Nashville for the last number of years, and I think he's largely been overshadowed by Roman Josi, but is really one of the more underrated defensemen in the NHL, and I think he is going to be a massive, massive upgrade to the Philadelphia Flyers blue line. For the Nashville Predators, they get Phil Myers, who's a younger option on the back end. I don't think Myers is quite to Ryan Ellis's level yet. I think that's pretty obvious that, if you were looking at talent right now, Ryan Ellis is the better defenseman. But Phil Myers is younger, and I think Phil Myers still has room to develop to the point where he is going to, be a really good top 4 guy down in Nashville. So, it makes sense there. And they also get Cody Glass, who has not worked out for the Vegas Golden Knights. He's a guy that has not really been able to crack the lineup full time and hasn't developed at the pace that Vegas was hoping he would. However, he's still young. It's not, all doom and gloom for Cody Glass. He still has time to turn it around, and a change of scenery might be a really good thing for him. So, he's an interesting prospect to watch for Nashville to see what he turns into. And then for Vegas, they get Nolan Patrick, obviously former second overall pick. Things did not go the way that he hoped in Philadelphia. Had to obviously miss that whole season. Not this past season, but the year before because of his migraine and head issues. He's had some injury problems, and then came back and played this year and did not have a very good season this year. Very similar to Cody Glass, I think Nolan Patrick could very much benefit from a change of scenery, and Vegas needs centers. Vegas is not very deep down the middle. If Nolan Patrick can at least turn into a good third-line center for them, that is a win for the Vegas Golden Knights. And obviously, he has more upside potential than that, being a former second overall pick. So Patrick just needs to get back to being the player that he was before these head issues, and I think it is a bit of a question mark as to whether that's going to happen or not. But I think it's worth it if you're Vegas to at least try Nolan Patrick, because Cody Glass had not been working out whatsoever. So, out of all of this, I like this for Philadelphia the most. I think the Flyers got the biggest upgrade out of all of these teams. That is a huge move for their defense. And I think Ryan Ellis, he's an absolute stud. He's an absolute stud and very underrated because Roman Josi has taken a lot of that spotlight in Nashville. When you watch Ellis on the Flyers, he's going to probably be their best defenseman. You're going to watch the Philadelphia Flyers play, and Ryan Ellis is going to be their best defenseman. And he's a guy that I've really, really liked for a long time in the NHL. We had a smaller trade here between the Vancouver Canucks and Dallas Stars. Vancouver received Jason Dickinson, who's kind of a bottom six forward from Dallas, in exchange for a third-round pick in this year's draft. So similar to the McCann situation in Pittsburgh, Jason Dickinson was not going to be able to be protected, most likely by the Dallas Stars. They didn't have enough protection spots to be able to keep him. So at least they get something for him. It makes sense there. They get a third-round pick, which that, isn't a guarantee to be a great NHL player, but isn't necessarily a throwaway either. We've seen some really solid players come out of the third round. So Dallas gets a pick, and Vancouver gets a really solid, third-line level guy who I think, will definitely help the Canucks in that area. And this was a trade that was worth it for Vancouver, and obviously for Dallas, it's better to get something for Dickinson rather than just losing him in expansion. The Arizona Coyotes received a second-round pick in 2022, and goaltender Joseph Coronar, who is a young prospect from the San Jose Sharks, in exchange for goaltender Aidan Hill. Now, Aidan Hill has shown signs. He's been on that cusp of becoming a full-time NHL goaltender. With Antti Ranta's injuries this past year, Aidan Hill did see quite a bit of NHL time. Darcy Kemper hasn't exactly stayed super healthy either. So Hill has seen a lot of NHL action. He looks like a pretty darn good young goaltender. He was kind of buried on the depth chart in Arizona behind Kemper and Ranta when they were both healthy. Which wasn't all that often, but Aidan Hill showed a lot of promise, and I think this was a solid move for the San Jose Sharks to go out there and get somebody who can improve them in net, and at the very least be an extremely good third goaltender, probably take over the backup job, or at least a 1B type job in San Jose. And then for Arizona, you get a prospect in Coronar, and you get a second-round pick out of it. So you did get pretty good value for Aidan Hill if you're the Coyotes there. That's a solid deal, I think, for both teams. The New York Rangers acquired Barclay Goodro from the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for a 7th-round pick. Now, Barclay Goodro is still an unrestricted free agent, which means he does not have to sign with the New York Rangers. And on July 28th, he can hit the open market and sign anywhere in the league that he wants. So you might be asking, why would the Rangers make this deal? Why not just wait to sign him until free agency? This gives the Rangers exclusive negotiation rights up until free agency opens on July 28th. So that means that over the next, week and a half, they can get a deal done with Barclay Goodro, and he doesn't have to actually hit the open market. So that is why the Rangers would do that, and that is also why the compensation was so low. It was only a 7th-round pick for somebody who proved to be invaluable for the Tampa Bay Lightning in this past, the past 2 playoffs. That's why the compensation was so low, because there is no guarantee that he signs with the Rangers, but the Rangers can sign him now before free agency. And obviously Tampa Bay was not going to have the cap space to re-sign him, so that's why they were willing to trade him, because he was going to be going somewhere else in free agency. Rangers made another move as well, sending Brett Howden to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for defenseman Nick DeSimone. So Brett Howden has never really panned out with the Rangers here. He's played in their bottom 6, but he hasn't really become the player that he was expected to be. Again, Vegas needs low-cost forwards. They're not very deep up front, and they don't have cap space really to work with. They are right up against it as far as the salary cap goes. So Brett Howden is a low-cost forward who can play on their 3rd or 4th line, and maybe the change of scenery will be good for him. Nick DeSimone, AHL defenseman, probably never going to be an NHL defenseman. I would expect that he's going to be a career AHLer. He's 26 years old. He's played his entire career in the AHL. So this was just, this was the Rangers just dumping off Brett Howden. They've seen enough from him. And then the final trade from today, and this was a weird one because of this right here. The New York Islanders sent Andrew Ladd a 2021 2nd-round pick and a conditional pick in 2022 and 2023 to the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for absolutely nothing. There was no return in this trade, which I didn't even know was allowed. I had no idea that you could have a trade with no return going back to the other way. I figured it would at least have to be like cash considerations or something, or at least like a conditional 7th-round pick. I mean, I had no idea that you could do a trade for literally nothing, but the New York Islanders did that today. So why did the Islanders do this? Cap space. New York is desperate for cap space. They have some huge RFAs that they need to get re-signed. This is a cap space move. For Arizona, it's a cap dump. They take on Andrew Ladd and his contract, which New York did not want on their books anymore. And basically, the Islanders paid the Coyotes a 2nd-round pick plus 2 conditional picks to take Andrew Ladd's contract off of their books. Now, the conditions on the picks are the 2022 2nd-round pick. It's whichever is better between the 2 that the Islanders have. So the Islanders have their own pick in 2022 and Colorado's 2nd-round pick. Arizona will get the better of those 2 picks. And the conditional 3rd-round pick from 2023 is that if Andrew Ladd plays an NHL game, not this coming season, but the year after, which probably is unlikely, but that's a condition on that pick. So, Arizona has a chance to will get at least 2, if not 3 draft picks from the Islanders in exchange for taking on Andrew Ladd's contract, and then that opens up over $4 million in cap space for the New York Islanders, which they desperately needed. So those are the trades that happened today, and boy, there was a lot going on leading up to the 3 p.m. roster freeze, and Man, the offseason has been active so far, to say the least. It's been a pretty wild offseason, and with Seattle coming in, we kind of expected that, but this has been a really fun offseason so far in the NHL, and I can't wait to see it continue over the next couple of weeks as we get through the expansion draft, the regular draft, and into free agency. It's been absolutely nuts, but thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store, channel memberships, and donation link is down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.